Hello friends, welcome to Embrace the Question. I am Steve, and today I am revisiting the teaching from last week, which I uploaded with some serious technical issues, namely no volume. So now I'm back in familiar territory and I know my technology here, so we're going to give it another try. I'm still in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, but I want to sneak up a couple of more verses and take a look at this content, at this context, because it taps right into one of my favorite all-time verses, and it's one of the great encouraging verses in all of Scripture. A lot of people read this passage when they are down or discouraged, and I want to start there because it taps right into the point I would like to make. Again, 1 Corinthians 2, and we're going to start with verse 9. And I will just read that really quickly. Verse 9. But as it is written, what no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined, what God has prepared for those who love him. That's that verse. That's that inspirational verse, right? These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. For who knows a person's thoughts except the spirit of that person, which is in him? So also no one comprehends the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we might understand the things freely given us by God. And we impart this in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit, interpreting spiritual truths to those who are spiritual. The natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. The spiritual person judges all things, but he himself is to be judged by no one. For who has understood the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. That is provoking to me. We have the mind of Christ. Not we were getting the mind of Christ. Not someday we will obtain it. Not when we die we will finally resemble him enough to have the ability to think like him. None of that. We have the mind of Christ right now. The minute you say yes, he's there. That Spirit takes over. We have the mind. That doesn't mean we always access it. It doesn't mean we always use it. But he's left very little room for us to discuss whether or not we have it or not. We have the mind of Christ. And it's prefaced right there in verse 16, for who has understood the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? That's what I always hear Christians say. Well, his ways are higher than my ways. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. Who can understand the mind of God? Well, honestly, that is an old covenant attitude, an old covenant reality, and it's no longer applicable. That's what Job was asking. That quote is actually out of Isaiah. Isaiah was recapping that himself, but Job asked that question. So he is rebutting that very sentence. Who can understand the mind of the Lord? But we have the mind of Christ. Now this very comforting verse that I was talking about up in verse 9. What no eye has seen nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined, what God has prepared for those who love him. I used to think, wow, when thinking that through. It seems to say, if you read it too quickly, that man can't know what God has prepared for him. Because nor has the heart of man imagined. What I didn't realize is that sentence starts with but, rebuttal, meaning this is not necessarily not a reality for us. We can know what God has prepared, maybe in little bits, maybe in little pieces. Have you ever wondered how an artist can create something that looks absolutely divinely inspired? It doesn't have to be a painter, although a painter would be a great example. What I would think of the most are like authors like J.R.R. Tolkien or C.S. Lewis. How did they come up with their stories? How did they come up with that imagery? To me, that can only be divinely inspired. And there's so much truth in it. It's not all inspired by God. Obviously, he was a man letting his imagination go and having fun with it, and putting a lot of years worth of storytelling into words. But some of that imagery could have been given to him by God, because we have the mind of Christ. But, as it is written, what no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined, what God has prepared for those who love him, these things God has revealed to us through the Spirit. The very first part of the next verse. The Spirit of God, the one who knows all those mysteries about God, he lives in us. So if we want to, if we seek, then we can, through that Spirit in us, get glimpses, right, of the very secrets of God, the very things God has in store for us. Maybe you can see pictures of these in the movies, where the movie creator has used some of that divine inspiration to create an image that is absolutely from heaven. Who knows? Because we have the mind of Christ. How cool would that be to read a story where, for that very chapter, the author is describing something out of heaven, and he didn't even know it. He was just tapped into the Spirit that was in him. How cool is that? Because we have the mind of Christ. It says in John 15, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says, "You're no longer servants, but I'm calling you friends, because the master never shares his secrets with the servants, but I am letting you know everything that God has given me to tell you." Wow. So ponder on this. We have the mind of Christ. It's not something that's in development. It's something we have access to. And that should be a great comfort. Whenever you need wisdom, wisdom is in you. Okay? Hey, I hope you enjoy this teaching. Like, subscribe, and hit the little bell at the top, and you will know every time I release a new video, hopefully with audio to go. And I will see you very soon, next week, I hope. Peace.